Hi, everyone. I'm Chris with National Parents Organization, and today we have Rael Lapenta from the Interference with Child Custody Coalition. They're a fairly new organization, and she's going to talk to us a little bit today about her organization and also about a thing called Cadence Law. So, Rael, thanks for coming on the show. We are so happy to have you, and thanks for coming on.
Great. Thank you so much for having me, Chris.
So, Rael, tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your background, and how did you get into this shared parenting space? And of course, we want to hear about the organization Interference with Child Custody Coalition.
So my name is Rael Lapenta. I live in Pennsylvania, and I am a behavior and sensory consultant. I have a practice in Marlton, and I help kids with special needs and sensory processing and behavioral disorders. The reason that I got into advocacy was my own personal situation. Um, After I split, something didn't seem right with the custody issues. So, in my search for some justice, I came across Claudio Valles, who was explaining to people the law of custodial interference and that it's not enforced. And so, when I was in a position where I didn't understand what was happening and what I felt what was happening wasn't right, I wanted the answer of let's make it right. I didn't want to just accept that it just doesn't happen. You just can't get help. So Claudia and I started working together over a year ago, and we've been working on legislating for concerns in Cadence law, as well as helping parents learn and understand their rights and advocate for their rights, especially with the law against the law custodial interference.
Yeah, I mean, we hear all the time from people, that are going through divorce or have been divorced, and one of the most infuriating things is that states will absolutely, sort of without any regard to anything, enforce things that involve money, right? But when it comes to time with the children, they will make, they'll make judgments and they'll say, well, you have to do this or you have to do that, but then they won't enforce it. And to me, it's one of the most infuriating parts of divorce law, and it's just crazy. I know it drives a lot of people crazy. And did you have some personal experience with that?
Yeah, absolutely. There were times where my children were withheld against the custody order, and I called the police, and they said it was a civil matter. And before I knew it was a law, I just said, "Oh, okay." I thought something with this was wrong. They advised me to go back to civil court. I went back, filed contempt, found in contempt, and then we'd be right back out. But months later and thousands of dollars later, after having an attorney and going back to court, and I did that for years. We did that cycle until I found Claudia, and learned that there is actually a law. And although police may be mistaken, or may be misinformed or untrained, it is actually a law, and it's a law for a reason. It's been a law since the 1970s and 1980s, and every single state has a law against custodial interference because the Department of Justice and the OJJDP and the National Missing and Exploited Children for exploited children, they've all put out guidance for years and years and decades saying there's two things that come with custody. One is civil, where you go and you pay the lawyer and you get a court order, and then the other is criminal, and there's a level that gets to that it's criminal. And just unfortunately, police are not enforcing this law. Things like, I don't know if you're familiar with Kata Mancuso's case. She was murdered by her father in Pennsylvania. And her mother tried to enforce custodial interference several times. And it was not enforced. And then it led to her murder, which then led to Cadence law. So bottom line is, if custodial interference was enforced, we wouldn't be in this situation to begin with. Police just don't, they feel like it's a tit for tat, and they just don't understand the gravity of when one parent chooses to withhold a child from the custodial parent during their custodial time.
So is this a federal law then, or is it a state by state law?
Custodial interference is a state by state law, but Cadence law does start from the federal level. So there's like two different pieces with it. So for custodial interference, like in Pennsylvania, we've been working hard with groups and legislators to make an amendment that include things like training and policy. I didn't realize that police need a policy to follow a law. I thought that police could read a law and they really need a policy, and there is no policy for custodial interference laws in Pennsylvania except for with the state police. The state police do have one, and the state police enforce the law, but they only have jurisdiction over like 11 out of the 67 counties in Pennsylvania. So, the amendment will include that. Claudia's been working hard in Texas, and she has laws that were passed. They are enacted in Texas as of September 1 that you can ask your municipality to enact this specific law that says that you can get a citation, like up to a $500 ticket, because the police in Texas were saying they don't want to put a parent in jail for a felony if you're 15 minutes late, or again, just sort of a misunderstanding about their role in terms of the custody. But the law would be you get a citation, so you could just get a ticket, and then you get up to $500. And after 3 tickets, then the district attorney would say, "Hey, this is a pattern, and this is a problem. This is not just a civil matter." Hopefully, there's also laws in Texas that say that keep the district attorney accountable. They have to prosecute crimes. They can't choose. They have to prosecute, which will be helpful. And they also remove the statute of limitations for custodial interference and kidnapping in Texas. So, there is a ways to change it, and we are hoping to do this on a national level, but the custodial interference law is state by state, so it varies.
Yeah, so you really have to get up to speed on what the law is in your state, and then figure out, maybe how you need to advocate to make it more effective, it sounds like.
Yeah, that's exactly it. But we did create a video, a YouTube video that shows the best steps to get this enforced. The kinds of things to do, be right at your location when you're supposed to. All those trips and falls that everybody else had, we sort of collaborated into the best method of getting this law enforced. And then we also advocate, talk to your legislators. I never would have thought that I would be advocating with legislators, but they do actually meet with you. And many of them do actually help, but they don't. I've had one legislator say, "Oh, no, there's never custodial interference in my district." I was like, "I'm sure there is." And he said, "But no one's ever told me about it."
Yeah, well, that certainly doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Right. But we are also not speaking up against it. Like, I feel like a lot of parents, at least I know, get defeated. They don't think keep going up the chain, you know?
Yeah. So what level does it have to rise to before something's considered custodial interference? I mean, is it, obviously, being late to an exchange now and then probably doesn't rise to that level, but are we talking about when somebody, is supposed to have time with the children and they refuse to let the other parent have that time? What level does it have to go to?
It depends on the state law. So some laws do say it has to be for more than 24 hours. Some laws say it has to be a significant time period, which then legislators have said like 2 weeks. It could, obviously it wouldn't be 15 minutes. That's the kind of stuff that police have to determine. But any kind of, and it depends, some states say withholding, some say enticing away. So I know in Pennsylvania, that was something that I've heard like, oh, well, it doesn't say holding on to them. It just says taking them from you. So, that was something we worked in the amendment. So it really is totally what it has to do with that. And I don't think parents typically call the police when someone's 15 minutes late. I know I did not.
Well, we hope people wouldn't, but I do know there's cases where people do get pretty extreme on things, unfortunately. Now, I want to ask a question. Where does the line draw between custodial interference and parental alienation? Because we hear, parental alienation quite a bit in the shared parenting world. I just want to draw, sort of some contrast between the two.
So I don't think there's a line that separates them. I think obviously it could be connected. If a parent is alienating, one of the signs that you would see is withholding custody. But the piece that we are going at is more of the provable and actionable piece. So it is already a law. It is already against the law. And as a victim of a crime, you have the right to report a crime. So that's what we are pushing to parents, because the whole diagnosis and proving in court with parental alienation is something that the experts are dealing with. Not my realm. I'm not an expert, but I can read a law and I do know if it applies to the law. So we feel like it is a important step to get the time with your children that you deserve. So if you are being alienated, things aren't getting worse. And it's something that can be enforceable. It's not the easiest to enforce, but nothing is really in that whole realm.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I mean, I think when you're in the middle of this, it's, people oftentimes they just don't know what to do, where to go, because it feels like there really is no help other than just spending crazy amounts of money in court and giving it to the lawyers. And then, like you mentioned before, it's months and months between, when you file something and when you actually get to court, and then they delay it and you come back to court, and, it's just a big mess. So, it would be nice if all the states would have something that was reasonably uniform, but having a state by state law is better than nothing. How does the federal law sort of influence the state law? Does the federal law have like a basis where every state has to have something, or how does that work?
So for Caden's law, so it depends obviously on the law. So then if we jump to Caden's law, which is different than interference with child custody, Caden's law is a federal law that was passed through an appropriations package. So it was put into Congress as on the Senate and the House side, and it did not pass. But in the appropriations package, which was the reauthorization of VAWA in 2022, it did have that whole section. So I think on page 2229 of the 4,000 page document, there are like 4 pages that say that through a stop grant, that your state could be eligible for like millions and millions of dollars if your state enacts these things. And then there's 3 sections. There's a section of training, a section of standards, and a section of laws. Sadly, one of those sections includes banning reunification, which is why we've seen it in some states. It has statements in there that it just does. The experts weren't, discussed this with. So it says things like you cannot remove a child to whom they are bonded. And as many of us know, there are 4 types of bonding, and only one is positive. So lacking that word of a healthy bond can have this law have serious effects that they just don't understand. So the intent of stop grants is to get domestic violence training. But the authors of this specific piece have added in child abuse, and they are people that do not believe that parental alienation is real. They believe parental alienation is a legal tactic and they want it banned. And we believe this was a backdoor way to get that done in that piece. So then they're taking this grant that's in option in the federal law, and they're going to states and saying, hey, you can get $25 million. All you have to say is parental alienation isn't real, and ban reunification therapy. And that's how we're seeing it play out, sadly.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's something that had really good intentions to start with, and then by the means of a bunch of people getting involved, has now completely been twisted into something totally different.
That's exactly what happened. Absolutely. And as advocates who want to explain those concerns to people, we have been told by legislators, by other groups, they post about us. They say things like, these people don't want protection for abused children because the law is keeping children safe. Why don't you want children safe? Why do you think, children shouldn't be protected from abuse? So that's the way it's coming off. And it's not. We just want all abuse included. So children should be protected from all forms of abuse, not just physical and sexual.
Yeah, it is kind of amazing how things like protecting time with parents has been it's a hot button topic for some reason, and to me it makes so much sense. But domestic violence groups often, I think, misconstrue what the real ask is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we see that this federal law is based on an a grant funded study that the results cannot be replicated. They haven't been released. It's this one time thing that says that men are the abusers and women are the victims. And, I'm really surprised about the nation. I thought we came further than that. It's still, it's not, we're not at the place where you should be at the door with a cold beer for your husband. We're at a much better place. Like, so why does it have to be the women are the victims and the men are the abusers?
Yeah, I think that's probably a much longer discussion than what we have time for today. Certainly, lots of rabbit holes to go down with that discussion.
Yeah.
What's the future for your organization and for states that you've been working with?
So we continue to try to educate parents on the ways to get this enforced. We're on all the time, and we're always willing to help. We want states to be able to be prepared and aware that Caden's law is likely coming to their state, and it's time for them to speak out. We meet with states that have a parent in that state that want to be the lead, and we help them learn how to just sort of the nuances of it. The template for how to request a meeting, the virtual meetings. We run the meetings in the beginning with them, and we sort of just phase ourselves out once they have that information, because it's just so important to get to your legislators. And we have ways that work. It worked. That's why I found Claudia. She was doing something that worked. She was making changes and literally passed laws. And I was like, yeah, I want to do that. You tell me what to do and I'm in. And it worked. And I'm in Pennsylvania and we have our amendment that's going to be filed and we're working on Caden's law. It definitely is also empowering in such a horrible, confusing time when something like that's happening to you. So we're going to keep going. We're now going to go federally to try to work on this. It's a much, much bigger task to ask, but we've done this now for 2 years consistently, state after state after state after state, fighting Caden's law. And we just, obviously we don't have the manpower. We are not, we don't request donations. We don't work on that. We're just moms who see that something needs to change because it's not right. And we're willing to put as much time in as we can and help others to do the same. And so we hope that federally we can get this law safer for everyone, and also on the regular have custodial interference enforced as it should be.
Well, that sounds fantastic. And while you're out there advocating, make sure that the legislators can't have a 4,000 page bill that has lots of different things from what is in the title. I've often said that we need to have a law that says that bills that pass through through the federal level need to be aptly titled to what they actually contain. And these giant omnibus bills are just nothing but damaging for our country.
I was shocked that happened. The last legislator we spoke to, I was like, "Did you that happens normally? Like, so who sits down and reads 4,000 pages as a federal legislator? You should, but I guarantee a lot of them don't. So how do you know what's connected? That's really," I said, "It's scary." And they were like, "Well, there's a lot of ways the bills get passed." I was like, "That really shouldn't be the way it is."
Yeah, if I remember growing up as a kid, we had that was it Schoolhouse Rock, with the little bill graphic and how a bill becomes a law,
I'm
and
a bill.
yeah, it's certainly I mean that's the basic idea, but it certainly gets convoluted quite a bit. So it sounds like you also need some people to reach out and volunteer, and you've got a Facebook page. I'm going to bring that up here, and just talk to me a little bit about what people can do to volunteer.
Great. So yeah, on our Facebook page, facebook.com/enforce ICC, you can go and under the groups tab, first it's the national page. We post all the time. We post information. We post tips on having it enforced. We post cases of it being enforced to show people that, you were misinformed. It really is enforced. And we post constantly, and you can reach out to us on that page, as well as under the groups tab. There is a specific a specific page for every state. So Pennsylvania, and it's labeled 2904 interference with child custody, which is the law number, the penal code in Pennsylvania. So every state has a page, so you can join that, which is then a private group, or you can message us right there on the national page. And, we read them all, we answer them all, and we want to help every state, understand that this is a law and get it changed if it's not getting enforced in that way.
So yeah, if you want to join the group, just go to the website, click on the More tab, then click on Groups, and then scroll down and find the group in your state. So that would be fantastic. And then, are there other things that you're looking for from people?
No, really, we just need people to want to make a change. You don't have to put in a lot of time. You can do it on your lunch break. It's really, if you can copy an email, just copy and paste and put it in and show up to some Zooms with some legislators. That's how it gets started, and that makes a big difference.
Well, that's fantastic. And then, do you have any other websites or social media that people should visit?
Yeah, we do have heroesforchildren'srights.org, which is the main website. And I think it has a link to the Facebook there. And we do events all the time that are posted on Facebook under the events. During legislation time, we slow down, but typically we do events pretty often, free events for parents to learn about the law or how to enforce it or how to put in a open records request, things about cadence law, whatever.
Awesome. Well, I just signed up for the Kansas group here on your page, and look forward to getting involved with that. Is there anything else you want to tell the audience before we head out?
No, I appreciate the time in speaking about this. Give it a try. Don't be intimidated by someone that's a legislator. I'm a mom. I coach softball, and I went to work, and I never thought that I would be there. But you have a very important voice, and people need to know the problem. And anybody can do something. Don't fall into that hopeless hole, and that's easy to do. So.
Well, Raul, thanks for coming on and visiting with us today. This has been really informative, and we'll put all this in the notes here in the video. So if you have any questions about going to the Facebook page or to the website, just check the notes in the video. And we thank you for joining us today.
Great. Thank you so much, Chris.